In this video, we introduced you to the interactive Geoboard from CPD College. A geoboard is a mathematical manipulative used to explore basic concepts in plane geometry such as area, perimeter, characteristics of triangles and polygons, etc. As well as having a virtual geoboard for your interactive whiteboard, you can also purchase the physical boards from all good school suppliers, and you can have boards that are 11 by 11, so they have pins sticking up, and around those pins then you pull elastic bands to make some of the regular polygons, make angles, etc. So you can buy a pack of them for hands-on use with the children along with a bunch of colored bands. So the virtual geoboard consists of a board with a certain number of pins around which you wrap elastic bands. And a geoboard, it can be rectilinear in shape or it can be isometric. So there's the isometric one, and here's the rectilinear. It's probably a good idea to allow the children to freely play with our physical boards and their elastic bands before you get into structured activities. In this interactive geoboard here, the virtual one, we have a number of colors of elastic bands. So for example, if I change it to violet, I can change the color of the band. I can have 10 rows. Here we have 10 rows, but you can have any number of rows and any number of columns. So you start off by allowing the children just to freely play, and they will make shapes and patterns and pictures by just pulling the rubber bands across the pegs on their own geoboard at their tables. So after free play, you might start off with some structured activities. So you might begin with something simple. Can you make me a square? So the children will get their elastic bands and they will make a square. So you put on the band and then you pull the band, and when you click outside of it, then you can go back and you can get another band, bring the band down and hook it onto the peg, and then drag it and you can pull it in all directions. So this is a square, so the first side of that square was 3 units, so this one is 3 units. So attach the band, click outside to release it, and then get yourself another band, and you pull the band taut, and then you get yourself a fourth band, and you pull that, and we have made ourselves a square. You could ask your children as they look up at the interactive whiteboard, how many square units is inside this square? If we count them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So there's 9 square units. So a square of 3 units by 3 units gives you 9 square units, and you're multiplying the length by the width. 3 3s are 9, and you can talk about that. But children could make all sorts of squares. You might ask the children, what's the smallest square you can make? And you might get yourself a red band, and you might make this the smallest square. And on your boards at your desk, what's the largest square you can make? And in an upper class, you might ask them then, how many square units is inside a square? That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So this is going to be 9 by 9 units. So if we fill it in, and then ask them how many square units. Next, you might look at rectangles. So you'd ask the children, can you make a rectangle on your geoboard at your table? So all the children will all go off and they'll make various rectangles. Again, then come back and you say to them, Mary, tell me about your rectangle. What is the length? What's the width? How many square units? And you can talk about the rectangles that they have made and what makes it a rectangle, etc. And here we're making a rectangle, and again you could ask the children, look up at my rectangle here on the interactive whiteboard. Can anybody tell me what is the length and what is the width? How many units long and wide is my rectangle, and how many square units is that? And again you can talk and discuss rectangles. Next, you might look at triangles. So can you make a triangle of, say, 1 square unit? So again, you would need to give them time to work out and to think about what might a triangle of 1 square unit look like. So again, this is what a triangle of 1 square unit looks like. Again, you can discuss then what they did and how they worked it out. Of course, if we have a rectangle of 2 square units, well then half that will be 1 square unit, which will give you your 1 square unit triangle. After that, you might ask them to make an isosceles triangle, or an equilateral triangle, or a scalene triangle. And again, they would create the triangles on their geoboards, and those triangles would have various areas. Again, click here to clear the board. You might ask them to make a rhombus, or a trapezoid, or parallelogram. So again, you can make all sorts of shapes and explore all sorts of regular and irregular polygons. Again, if they were doing a trapezoid, and here it is, so we get another one. Click it here, drag this up here, okay, and this is a trapezoid. Okay, so you would explore all sorts of regular and irregular polygons. We can also change the isometric pattern, and this is very good if you want to do the polygons and hexagons and octagons. So you would make those there, and again, you can make them of various sizes and discuss them. Another thing you can do is explore angles. So you might say to the children, can you give me a right angle with a red band? So they have to make themselves a right angle, and very quickly you can see if they understand these angles. A right angle. You might say, can you do an acute angle in orange? So we would get the orange band, and we would make ourselves an acute angle. So we drag that down there, get ourselves another band, and here we make an acute angle. Okay, so you can work on angles, or a straight angle, or an obtuse angle. The next thing you might do is ask them to make rectangles with certain perimeters. So you might say, can you make me a rectangle with a perimeter of 12 units, or make me a square with a perimeter of 18 units, or show a rectangle, 2 rectangles, and they have a total perimeter of 22 units, and then ask them to work out what is the area of those 2 rectangles. So there is a large range of activities that you can do on your geoboard, exploring lots of properties of shapes, drawing the regular shapes, the regular polygons, the irregular polygons, looking at area, looking at perimeter, looking at fractions of areas, looking at symmetry, all using your interactive virtual geoboard, while the children are using their own physical geoboards down at their table. So we've looked at some of the activities here, but you can obviously do a lot more activities, and of course you would scale those activities according to the class you are teaching.